Finally, NATO and Europe standing up to Donald Trump, warning him of the consequences if the United States withdraws from NATO and doesn't meet its Article 5 obligations, calling Donald Trump's bluff. You want to leave? We are going to create our own post-NATO military structures, whether that's in the form of a European army or some other military alliance without the United States. You want to join Putin? You want to join Xi Jinping? Go ahead and do it. NATO, Europe, calling Donald Trump's bluff before a critical meeting that's taking place in Sweden at the foreign minister level today. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be representing the United States. Our NATO allies, or perhaps former NATO allies, will be represented at the foreign minister level. Already, Marco Rubio is huffing and puffing and saying, I'm going to blow your house down. And NATO is saying, go and do it and see what happens. And we finally are seeing NATO and Europe openly projecting this strength. And we're seeing Donald Trump back down as well, right? Within about a few days after Donald Trump announced that he would be removing or redeploying troops that were supposed to be sent to Poland, Donald Trump in the past 24 hours said that because of his relationship with Poland's President Karol Nawrocki, he's now going to send 4,000 to 5,000 troops to Poland. Trump creates the problem. I'm removing the troops from Poland. And he says, because of my relationship with the president of Poland and because of his great victory in the election, I've just decided I'm going to put the troops back into Poland. The election took place, I think the first round was last May 2025, and then the election was like August 2025. But here was Donald Trump's post after finally Europe, NATO calling him out. I mean, Poland being a model ally of the United States right on that eastern flank by Ukraine and Russia after Putin was doing those nuclear drills in Belarus yesterday. Donald Trump was cornered, not just by Putin, but by the NATO and European allies. And they said, you see how weak you look? You see how pathetic you look after you came back from China? You see Xi Jinping and Putin taunting you? Go ahead. Go with them if that's what you want to do. And Donald Trump reacted to it. When you call his bluff, he backs down. Here's what Donald Trump posted. Based on the successful election of the now president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, who I was proud to endorse in our relationship, I'm pleased to announce that the United States will be sending an additional 5,000 troops to Poland. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So you withdraw him and then you send him back. Makes a lot of sense, Donald. But then, of course, he has to attack some of our other allies. He has to attack Canada. So then he says, and Canada, you need to give us an answer immediately. Why aren't you buying our F-35s? You better buy our F-35s or else we will withdraw from NORAD, or else we will withdraw from our Joint Defense Pact from 1940. Oh, wait, we already withdrew with that. Oh, wait, we already threatened to withdraw from NORAD. And Canada just keeping a very steady hand. Okay, Donald, we're going to go through our review. We're going to Sweden where they make the Gripen, which is the plane that competes with the F-35s. They seem to be more reliable than you. You got to hold your ground with Donald Trump. And when the Trump regime huff and puff and threaten you, you just got to stand up and apply force. So here's what Rubio tried to do earlier in the morning yesterday, where and this is posted on the Department of State social media. Rubio saying, if NATO countries like Spain are denying us the use of their bases, why are we in NATO? We need to discuss that. So Rubio showing up to Sweden and on that trip saying, why are we in this alliance? And NATO saying, all right, we're creating our own army then without you. We don't need you. Go America first means America alone. Good luck. Here's what Rubio said. Here, play this clip.
I don't think anyone is shocked to know that the United States and the president in particular is very disappointed at NATO right now and what it has meant. Understand that I've been a strong supporter of NATO my entire career. I've defended it. I believe it's important. I believed it's important. But the number one thing I used to tell people was the reason why NATO is good for America, because that's the question. Anytime you join anything, the number one answer has to be, why is this good for America? The reason why NATO is good for America, I know why NATO is good for Europe, but why is NATO good for America? Because it gives us bases in the region that allow us to project power during a contingency in the Middle East or somewhere else. So when that is the key rationale for why you're in NATO, and then you have countries like Spain denying us the use of these bases, well, then why are you in NATO? That's a very fair question. Now, in fairness, other countries in NATO have been very helpful. But we need to discuss that. That needs to be addressed. And that's what I hope to address and to set the table for the leaders meeting, which will be happening in Turkey, I think next month, if I'm not mistaken.
And I'll show you, Mark Rutte, the secretary, the leader of NATO, I think that he's usually very weak. But here's what he had to say about Europe with UK and Turkey and Norway. We have over 500 million people. Why are we dependent on a country with 350 million people? In terms of what Mark Rutte's going to say, this is about as strong as it gets. But here's what he says. Here, play this clip.
Europe is with the UK and Turkey and with Norway is over 500 million people. We are facing an adversary in Russia of about 120 to 140 million people. And we are now overly dependent on one ally with about 350 million people, making sure that we can defend ourselves against Russia. That's not sustainable long term. And that one ally cannot keep explaining this to its own public. So it is only right that where this debate took place for years. And this is why I praise President Trump, that in the summit in The Hague, he booked, I think, his biggest foreign policy success of 2025, which is the wholesale alliance getting to 5%, necessary to, yes, equalize with the US, but also to make sure that Europe can take a bigger responsibility for its own conventional defense, which is totally logical. We are so rich here. If we cannot do it, who could? And we can, and we will.
And I think here calling out Donald Trump for looking pathetic with China and with Russia and North Korea. And Rutte's like, look, we know that China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran are working together. Like, what are you doing? Here, let's play this clip.
But let's not be naive. What's happening here? What's happening here is that since basically 2022, we see China and Russia and North Korea and Iran working closely together. It's one of the reasons why in NATO, on the US side, the Canadian side, the European side of NATO, we are conscious of the fact, yes, NATO is a transatlantic alliance. But given the fact that Russia is working together with China, North Korea and Iran, we have to make sure that we have strong relations with partners outside NATO territory. This is one of the reasons why my chief of staff was recently in Japan, why I was myself visiting Japan a year ago, why we have intensive conversations with the Republic of Korea, with Australia, with New Zealand. The Indo-Pacific 4, as a NATO parlor, we call this collaboration, working on innovation, defense industrial base, production, etc., but also exchanging information and insights, etc., particularly when it comes to the war in Ukraine. So, we know China was active in sanction circumvention, in delivering dual-use goods. We knew already that was taking place. So I've never been naive about China's role when it comes to Russia's war against Ukraine.
NATO's Admiral Dragoni talking about reaffirming the commitment to Ukraine. Play this clip.
We also reaffirm our continued support to Ukraine and strengthening its armed forces for the fight today as well as tomorrow's security. Let me take this opportunity to once again commend the Ukrainian soldier and people for their courage, resilience, and adaptability. To them, my message is Slava Ukraini.
And by the way, do you think that the foreign minister of Spain is worried about what Rubio is saying? No, he's saying, look, if NATO's very important, but we also think we need to have a European army. Of course we do, because we have to. Didn't you say you want us to take our defense in our own hands? Didn't you say that you wanted us not to be dependent on the United States? Wait, so you do want us to be dependent? Do you not want us to be dependent? Are you going to withdraw troops? Are you going to send them back? Like, what in the world are you actually doing here? Here, let's play this clip right here.
Except that you are calling for a European army. You say we can't live our lives waking up every day wondering what the US president is going to say about our defense, and you're not paying the 5% that the president is demanding.
There are two things. One, we said since the very beginning that the debate should be on capacity, not in the percentage. We are 2.1, which is more than some of the members of NATO right now. There is no way that is paying 5% at this very moment, and our position was very clear since the very beginning. But we are delivering all the capacities. We got the defense expenditure in our country in 0.9 when we got to government. It's 2.1 right now, and we are delivering all the capacities. And when it comes to the European army, to have a strong pillar of European security reinforce NATO. And the United States invite us Europeans to take more of the burden of our security. So I find that this is complementary. European army and NATO are not two opposite things. On the contrary, they are complementary.
We also heard from the former U.S. Army commander in Europe calling out Rubio, Ben Hodges, who you've seen on the MeidasTouch network before. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
I have been surprised and disappointed in the illiteracy of many people in this administration about NATO, including Secretary Rubio, who knows better. He was a senator on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He knows how NATO operates. So it's not what we need NATO to do for us. The United States is a part of NATO. But yet this administration talks as if NATO is some other entity separate from the United States, when in fact the United States is in NATO. And so, if they're unhappy that some nations like maybe Spain or Italy did not want to allow U.S. Air Force to use bases as part of the operations against Iran, that has nothing to do with NATO. That's outside of NATO's responsibility. And the administration does a terrible job of consulting with allies.
One of the things I think you're hearing from NATO say as well is, look, NATO with Article 5, we defend each other. This is a defense alliance, not an offensive alliance. We don't go and invade, but if that's what you and Netanyahu want to do, maybe you want to look at the munitions situation with Israel. Maybe you want to look at the latest Washington Post exclusive, where we've now learned that in defense of Israel, the U.S. depleted much of its inventory of advanced missile defense interceptors, expending far more high-end munitions defending Israel than Israeli forces used themselves, per a Department of Defense assessment of Operation Epic Fury. The U.S. fired more than 200 THAAD interceptors in defense of Israel, roughly half of the Pentagon's total inventory, along with more than 100 SM-3s, SM-6 interceptors. By contrast, Israel fired fewer than 100 of its Arrow and around 90 David Sling interceptors. Military analysts said the data offers a rare window into how the U.S. and Israel work together. The numbers are striking. The U.S. absorbed most of the missile defense mission, while Israel conserved its own magazines. Even in the operational logic was sound. The U.S. is left with roughly 200 THAAD interceptors and a production line that can't keep pace with demand. That bill risks coming due in theaters that have nothing to do with Iran. And so NATO's saying, you want to leave us? You think you and Israel can go it alone? Look what happened the last time you tried it. So this big meeting happening in Sweden right now, as Phil Stewart reports, you had Rubio threatening to withdraw, NATO standing up, but ultimately the Trump always chickens out, the taco, whatever you want to call it. Right before this meeting took place, after withdrawing the troops from Poland, Trump then says, okay, because of the election last August, you're putting the troops back in, whatever. But this is why you got to project strength. You got to be strong, and you got to call his bluff, and you got to be prepared to say, bye-bye. Bye-bye. We don't want you. We don't want you, because increasingly Donald Trump's chaos, Donald Trump's behavior makes American military bases in countries a liability, not a strength anymore, especially as Trump wakes up one day and is this, feels the other day and does this. I'll leave you with all of this if you want to see this in final. This is the video just to see the utter chaos and amateurism at the highest levels of the United States military. This is a real video that Hegseth just put out. Just put it out. This is what he just posted. Play this clip.
To keep America safe in an increasingly dangerous world, we cannot rely on the weapons of the past. We have to build the weapons of the future. For 4 long years under Joe Biden, this department chronically underinvested in our military technology, while our adversaries aggressively modernized theirs. Under President Trump, that era of complacency is over. With his $1.5 trillion military budget, we are awakening the sleeping giant and building America's arsenal of freedom. First and foremost, we are defending the homeland. We're funding the Golden Dome, a next-generation multi-layered missile shield over the United States. It will protect our communities from airborne threats and ensure that America will never be held hostage by foreign powers. Second, maritime dominance. We're talking about control of the seas. The new budget allows us to supercharge our neglected shipyards, transforming them into unstoppable engines of American industrial might. These modernized shipyards will rapidly churn out brand new ships that will form the Golden Fleet, ensuring our naval superiority in any sea, now and into the future. Third, we're making a record-breaking investment in drones, lethal ones, to dominate the battlefield of today and tomorrow. This allows us to unleash massive swarms of autonomous drones that will fly and fight right alongside our manned 6th-generation fighter, the F-47, while our next-generation bomber, the B-21, soars overhead, capable of penetrating the toughest defenses and delivering precision strikes anywhere in the world. Fourth, the future of warfare, it's here, and it's spelled AI. We're funding advanced cyber operations and artificial intelligence to crush our enemies' networks before they can even strike. And by making the largest ever investment in the Space Force, we will lead the world in capabilities beyond our atmosphere. By the way, this Pentagon, President Trump's Pentagon, is making a historic commitment to passing a full financial audit. The arsenal of freedom will be done fiscally responsibly. Drones, AI, cyber, space, the Golden Dome, and the Golden Fleet. This is the most advanced, lethal arsenal the world has ever known. The arsenal of today, the arsenal of tomorrow, the arsenal of freedom.
So no wonder Europe, our former NATO allies, are building post-NATO military structures, talking about building a European army. That's what's going down. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.